everyone. Thank you for joining me for the 2018 Quizlet Unconference. I hope we have some fun today. We're going to play a little Quizlet Live at the end of the session today. You can find my presentation at the top right of your screen, and this will be on every screen, so don't worry if you don't get it right now. But it's bit.ly/QUPAT. And today we're going to be talking about fun and easy variations on Quizlet Live. So there's certain games that I play with my class that we mix up the Quizlet Live game a little bit. And we will be playing towards the end of class, so if you wanted to at this point, just make a separate tab and go to Quizlet.live. You'll be ready once we get there, and I put the code on the screen at the end of the presentation. You can follow me on Twitter at EdTechMcMillan, and I'm a Quizlet ambassador and a Google certified trainer. So let's get into it. So the first slide here is on the standard Quizlet Live game. I'm sure most of you over the course of yesterday or this morning probably did some session on Quizlet Live, but I do have this here in case you need a little refresher. So there's a little video on how to play and how it's set up with your class, and there's also a demo game on the right. If you click on the World Capitals demo, it'll pop up a Quizlet Live demo you can play on the Quizlet website. So that's there just in case you don't have the fundamental background of what Quizlet Live is and how to play it. So there's 5 ways, different ways that I might play Quizlet Live, and the 6th way is the Quizlet Live Playoffs, which you may have seen me post on my Twitter as well. Some of these games I came up with on my own, and then some of them I have seen around from different people. So 11 is one of those games that I did pick up from somewhere, but it is one of the games that are in my repertoire, and that game is 211. And basically the main Quizlet Live game is up to 12, and 11 is where the teams actually stop at the 11th question rather than answering the last one. And if you've been playing Quizlet Live for a while, playing up to 12, you'll notice that some teams struggle, and they're kind of stuck towards the bottom of the 1 through 12 scale. Maybe they'll get up to like question 9, but then they'll get a question wrong and get back to 1. So some teams struggle a little bit, and they're a little bit slower with getting up to 12. And this game kind of tempers that, and those teams that are fast can get up to 11 really fast, but the game's not over yet, and the teams that struggle can continue to keep on playing until you get to 11. A couple things to think about when you're playing up to 11 is that we're not in this to punish the last team or say, come on last team, you're not done yet, because there will be one team that's going to be the last one up to 11. So I think it's important in your classroom to encourage that this game is for everyone to get to 11. This game isn't meant for the last person to get to 11 to be the loser of the game. This is for all of us to get up to that same level that we want to get to. So that's 11. And then I just have a slide here of why to play. It kind of goes over some of those tips I just talked about, not criticizing the last team, and some teams are a little bit slower. And the nice part about this game is all the teams are going to finish at basically the same achievement level. They've all mastered those 11 terms by the end of the game. And in case you're wondering about that 12th question, the answer is pretty much given to you for the 12th question, because there's only one question left on your screen and there's only one answer left on your screen. So the 12th question actually isn't really necessary for finishing the game. The next play I play is what I call cacophony. There are some other words out there for different ways to play this game. But in a typical game of Quizlet Live, teams will separate up into their individual teams, and they'll talk with their teams in a small group somewhere in the room. With cacophony, the teams don't actually split up. They stay where they're seated, no matter where the rest of their team is located in the room. So they have to communicate vocally across the room, and this is actually one of my favorite ways to play, especially if you're starting out and if you're a teacher that's not afraid of noise in your room. I love noise in my room. I think it means that the kids are learning, they're communicating, and the best part about cacophony is you actually hear them talking about your content, and they're talking about it in an excited way. And depending on your subject, or maybe your style of teaching, you might not always hear that excitement in your room about a particular subject in your content. So this is a fantastic way to get kids excited and actually use your content when they're talking to each other. The first time I played this, I remember I just stood back in the corner of my room and was just smiling the whole time because I thought it was amazing how the kids were just utilizing my content and talking to each other across the room. So in this game, it's going to be louder because they are trying to communicate across the room, and it will be higher. Definitely higher volume than the rest of the games, but the kids have a great time with this one. So why play this game? So students are also, aside from having fun and shouting across the room, which they enjoy doing on its own, they're forced to sort through the vocabulary words that are actually flying through the room, because there's all these different words from the other teams kind of flying around between them, and they have to be able to pick out that word from the air and figure out, is that a word that's supposed to be with my team, or is that a word that goes along with another team? So they have to be able to pick that out. I have a couple of links to Kathleen Lacey's Twitter on some of my screens, and you can click on those and they'll go straight to her Twitter post. But she actually has a bunch of great videos from some of the games that I posted of her students doing the game. So if you need that little visual extra thing going on so you can understand what's going on with the games, you can click on that link and it will take you there, and you can check out her students playing the game. The next game is Silent. So with this one, the game's played basically the same as Cacophony, so the teams don't split up into separate groups. They stay where they're seated in the room, but oftentimes I do give them a planning time, so I'll let them get together in a group and figure out how they want to communicate with each other. So typically they're going to use hand signals in this case to help communicate with each other, and they can only give those hand gestures. They're not allowed to speak or anything. So they have to figure out some way to communicate to help give each other some clues as to how, as to whether they have the answer or whether they think someone else has the answer. Maybe they can give some kind of clue as to what they think the answer is without giving any verbal cues. So this mixes it up a little bit, and if you need that little quiet after playing Cacophony, Silent's a good game to play, and it gets the kids to think critically about how they can actually communicate with each other. They also have to exercise some patience when trying to find answers, because they don't have the other people telling them directly what answers they need, and they don't have those answers flying through the air, so they have to really look at the choices on their screen and figure out if that fits with the word that actually pops up for the question. So they're not given as much help in this game, so as we're moving through these games, you might notice we're kind of moving from more of a dependence on the group for answers, and as we move down towards the last game that I'm going to talk about today, the dependence is really more on the individual student. So if you want more student accountability for the answers, play some of the games that I have towards the end of my list. And if you play games more towards the beginning, it's more of a group game. So that's one thing for Silent versus other ones. And then also just communication with each other in that beginning part, building some soft skills for pre-planning and figuring out what kind of hand gestures and things they're going to do. So even if it's something simple like putting your hands up in the air, like I don't know, so you're not sure what the question is, or giving a thumbs up, or maybe even signaling what kind of letter maybe the word might start with. Maybe you can move your hands into an A shape. So there's different ways the kids can plan and figure out how they want to communicate. And again, there's a great link here for Kathleen Lacey, so you can see what she's been doing with her class. The next game is Relay. This game's really fun. The kids love getting up and moving around, so if you just don't want your class to sit there the whole time, especially if you're playing this with an elementary group, so you're playing with a younger group, Relay is a great game to play. And again, as we're moving down the scale, the individual accountability kind of increases as we're going through. So Relay, the students are really on their own for this. Now, if you want to mix it up, you could have the students help them, but typically the way I play, it's more individual accountability for those questions. So students are going to set up their computers all in a row, if you look at the graphic there, and team members are going to line up behind the computers. So there's going to be one person in front of all 4 computers, and then the 3 other members of the team, or 2 others depending on how big the teams are, will be behind the computer, so they cannot see the question and they cannot see the answers. So you might have to rearrange your room a little bit to make this work, so there is room for the students to kind of run around. I have tables in my room, so it's a little bit easier for me to set it up this way versus if you had desks in rows or something like that. You might have to rearrange it a little bit so there's room for kids moving around. So each player is going to take a turn looking at all the computers and finding the answer. So the first player that's up really has a multiple choice question with 16 or 12 answers, with 12 answers on it. So it's a pretty big question, but then the answers are going to move further and further down. So if the teams want to strategize and figure out who their strongest player is, if they put them first, that'll be the hardest question, probably the first one, because they have more answers that they have to look through. So they're going to look through all of their questions, and then once they pick the answer, they're going to run behind the table so they can't see the questions anymore, and then the next player is going to run in front and then look at the next question and see if they can figure out what the answer is. So they're going to constantly be tagging each other and just going circularly through. Like I said before, if you want to scaffold this, you could always have the players who can't see the question offer help. So the player in front looking at the questions can say, oh, does anybody know what this question is, and utilize the players behind as well during the game. So that's up to you how much help you want them to receive as they're playing through the game. So like I said before, individual accountability as they're moving through. That's one of the reasons why I play this game, and just that they're able to get up and move around. So for this one I have 2 links, so you can see how relay is being played. So Kathleen Lacey has it set up similarly to the way I had it set up, so if you click on that Twitter link you can watch her kids playing that one. And then Amy Radford also set up the game, and she set it up a little bit differently. So she actually had the computer spread out a little bit more in her room, so the kids actually had to make up a little bit more distance when they were going through the room to try and answer some of the questions. And then the last way that I play is what I call tag team. Matt Miller actually renamed this one quarterback, and I kind of like his title better, so I'll probably end up switching over to his title, quarterback. But half the team stands and half the team sits. So if you have a team of 4, 2 people will be standing and 2 people will be sitting. If you had a team of 3, I'd probably have 1 person stand and 2 people sit. So the 1 person at the back would be the quarterback. So the sitters are going to put their heads down. So they're going to have 2 computers in front of them. So 2 people sitting down in the team will each have 2 computers in front of them, and then the other 2 people are going to stand behind them. So the person sitting is going to put their head down so they can't see the question on the screen and they can't see the answers on the screen. The sitter is only going to look up once the person behind them taps them on the shoulder. So basically I set this up where if the person standing taps on the person's right shoulder, they know the answer should be on the right computer. If they tap on the left shoulder, they know the answer should be on the left computer. And then the person can lift their head up and then look at the computer and then find the answer and touch the screen. Now it is up to the person sitting whether the answer is actually on the right screen. So maybe the person taps their left shoulder and they look at the left screen, they're like, oh, the answer is actually not there. At that point they can look on the right screen and see if the answer is on the other screen. So so the person behind them is helping them out, but if they decide the person behind them is wrong, they could always change their answer if they wanted to. So one reason why I play tag team is because more than one student is always responsible for finding the correct answer. So the person standing up behind the person has to find the answer, tag the person in front of them, and then that person also has to find the answer. So in this case we always have 2 students who are looking for the same answer, so you have more contact with that specific question as you're playing through the game, and it's not just the one player looking for that one answer like it is in a typical Quizlet Live game. So yeah, that's why I play that game. And then again, Ann Hagen, I have a link for her Twitter, and she put up a great video of her class playing tag team, so you can see how that works. So those are all the 5 variations that I play, and like I said, it kind of goes through from group play down to individual play, where it's more accountability for the individual. Now, playoffs is a way to kind of tie all of this together. So if you want to go through and kind of proclaim one team a winner or one person a winner, there are different ways to do that. And I have my whole slideshow on Quizlet Playoffs, which kind of takes you through the different rounds. If you click on where it says Quizlet Playoffs there, and then my infographic to kind of step you through in more of a text way is on the right side of your screen. You can click that and check out my infographic on Quizlet Playoffs that way too. So I'm going to click on my Quizlet Playoffs link so we can check out my game. Alright, so on the slideshow, if you click group play, it'll take you through getting one group as a winner, and then individual play will show you how to do getting one individual student as a winner. So we're going to look at group play first here. So in group play, we're going to start with your typical team of 4 players, and you can play any way you want. So if you want to play standard Quizlet Live game, you can play that way. If you want to play silent or relay, you could always do one of those variations as you're going through the playoffs. So I'm going to do, for instance, let's say that we have 6 teams of 4 people. So that's going to be round 1. Alright, so let's say that in round 1, team 6 here won round 1. They're the first team to finish. So they're going to win. I'm going to give them a thumbs up, and they're going to move on to the next round. So then I'm going to play another game of round 1, and then team 2 wins that game. So at any point during this game, all the teams are going to play every game, but the teams that won the previous game, I let them play, but I tell them they have to stop at 11, or they have to get questions wrong every once in a while on purpose, or maybe every other question wrong on purpose, so they can keep on playing, but I don't want them to win because I need to get another winner. And then the last step in round 1 is to play one more time, and I get a third team that won. So anytime you play, you want to get half of the number of teams through to the next round. So in this case I have 6 teams, so I'm going to have 3 go through to the next round. So this is where it gets a little bit tricky, but I'm going to show you how to get through this process. So on the top, those are the 3 teams that got through from round 1. On the bottom, I play a consolation game with the 3 teams that got through from round 2. And I'll show you this later on, probably in the Q&A when I'm going through. But on your screen, you can do a split screen, or you can open up 2 tabs on your web browser. Go to Quizlet Live on both tabs, and you can go to your game, and you can load a Quizlet Live game on both tabs at the same time. So what I do is, the teams on the top who got through to the next round of the playoffs don't do anything. They stay in the Quizlet Live game they were in before, so nothing changes. But those teams that did not make it through to the next round play a consolation game, because I don't want those 3 teams that didn't make it through to just be sitting there while we're going through the rest of the playoffs. So I have them join a new Quizlet Live game with a new code in a new tab in my browser, and they actually play that game while the other team is playing the playoffs. So it's easier if you can do a split screen, so that each team can see how each game, the playoffs and the consolation game, can see how they're progressing through the game as they're playing. So that's how I go through to round 2. So I actually have 2 games going on at the same time. So then you play through one round of playoffs, and then a team will win for the playoffs. The consolation game doesn't matter. I pretty much just keep hitting restart anytime they finish. And then you play through again, and then another team finishes. So Now 2 of the teams are going to go head-to-head for the playoffs, and then that fourth team, or that third team that did not win for the playoffs, can join in on the consolation game down below. So now I have 4 teams down below in the consolation game, and I have 2 teams still in the playoffs, and then I'll play again, and I crown the winner. So that's how I go through and play the group playoffs. The individual playoffs is the next one. Basically the same thing, but I actually have players take turns. So if you notice, for each one of these teams, I only have one person at 4 computers. So they have to utilize all 4 computers at the same time and try and find their multiple choice answer as they're going through. So round 1A, I call it. Okay, one person wins from team 2 up there. You can see they have the thumbs up. And then I play again. And then that person on the 4th team won. So each player takes a turn going through, and basically I just keep playing until I have 4 people left. So I just play 4 rounds for round 1. I play 4 different games in round 1, I should say, so that those 4 players that won actually go through to the next round. And then I just play again and again. So again, I just keep playing until I get half my teams to go through, and then sometimes they'll go crazy, like this slide. So I have 2 people that went through to the finals, and they'll actually have 8 computers in front of them from 2 different teams. And they only have to win on one of the teams. So essentially, if you look at the purple guy on the top, he's got 8 computers in front of him, and 4 computers are from one team and 4 computers are from another team. And I just mix them up in between each other. Essentially, he only has to win with one of the teams. He doesn't have to win with both teams, because you can't win with 2 teams. So the other ones are kind of red herrings to mix them up as he's trying to play through the game. So they'll play through one more time, and then there's a winner. So the only downside of the individual play is that not as many people are playing at the same time, so there's some downtime for the other players as you're going through. You could always scaffold it if you want to let those other players help the individual person playing, but I find that the kids are typically excited enough where if I'm playing even this individual way, they're still really into the game and what's going on with the game. So if you go through those Quizlet Live playoff slides, that should help you out if you actually want to set up a Quizlet Live playoff with your class. So what I'm going to do works is we're going to play a little game. And then I'll kind of talk through how Quizlet Playoffs works as we're playing. All right, so anybody watching, if you want to join in the game, we'll see how many teams. I've never played with more than fitting for me. Awesome. So we're at 60. Oh, we're still going. Sometime I think we're going to have to set up a video conference so we can all video chat with each other and actually play the different variations during the game. So I have to see how that goes. Holding at 100. So I just joining.
Well, we're going to join the game over here at Quizlet as well. And so go start the game, and then we'll have some audio playing. It'll be kind of fun.
Okay. Are you okay?
Giant game.
We're excited.
So for Quizlet Playoffs, how this is going to work, we're going to play the group way. So you can see how we would crown a group champion. And by playing the group way, basically we're going to have 2 games going on. We're going to have the main game, and then we're going to have a consolation game. So in the classroom, typically I would set up a split screen. So I would have, and I would load up Quizlet Live with the same game on both sides of the screen. So after the first round, I actually put into the consolation game. So that would game on the right side. They're going to keep playing through on the right side of the constellation game the whole rest of the class. So as teams lose on the left side of my screen, that game, they're not going to exit out or anything the same on the left. So you're not going to remove students, but you will have them on the right side so they can stay inside that. So the game and you keep removing half the team just the teams keep getting eliminated as you go through, or you get one winner per round as you go through. Got 171. Any other call?
Let's go. We're ready.
I'm going to give you a couple seconds to join, and then I'm going to start it up. All right. Start it up at 178. It's your last chance. 5, 4, 3.
Let's see what we can do.
2, 1.
Let's go.
All right, here we go.
Here we go.
Ooh, I'm on Team Bison.
I've got dolphins.
Hello to all my ostrich friends out there.
Hello, my dolphins.
James, Tom W.
For those of you that aren't aware, since I'm on the screen, so I am a Latin teacher, and Quizlet has a great feature where when you have a foreign language deck, it automatically makes teams into the animals in that foreign language. So some of you might not be aware of that aren't foreign language teachers. It's a pretty awesome feature, and it just does it automatically. All right, here we go. So we're going to 4 in my class as well. So right now, you guys are playing anonymously because you can't communicate with each other and you don't know who each other is. In my class, the way I do agent number, and I don't let them talk to each other so they don't know who each other is. And this is essentially the way the game will function, the same way you're playing right now. So you kind of have to use self-restraint when you're playing. Like, do I really not have the answer? To be like self-confident, and then the other player has to actually answer, otherwise the game's not going to progress. So it's kind of a nerve-wracking game because you can't actually control anything with your team. So here we go. I'm going to start game anyway without Kathy H, so we'll see how that goes.
Is that
Ostriches, I'm letting you know.
Oh, we got one right over here. Good job, dolphins.
Bryson. Oh, nice. Thanks, Tom. That was great.
Nice, Mark. Good work.
Patrick, what is this set that we're playing?
Yeah.
What are we learning about right now?
Wow, I'm really loving my teammates right now. They're doing great.
Oh, good job, Ace.
Oh, yes, I had one. I got one right.
I did it. Okay, that was a guess.
And pick a set that people wouldn't naturally know.
Yeah, I like it. It's challenging.
Is it like half tech, half U.S. government, half bumblebees? Or
I got CEO of Google was one of my questions.
All
Nice
right.
work.
Oh my God, how are we doing?
All right, ostriches, I'm out of answers. It's all on your shoulders.
Let's go, bisons.
Oh, good.
Oh no, it's the frogs.
Oh, the frogs.
Right. So,
Such a cute frog.
so frogs definitely makes it through to the next round. So I'm going to say frogs. You can play the next game, but you can't win. So you can play to 11, or you can get every other question wrong on purpose. So the next round,
Oh,
We're playing again?
playing again because it's part of the tournament.
Not win. Play to 11 or get every other question wrong on purpose.
All right, Ostriches, we're gonna do this.
Come on, Bison.
Ready, Dolphins.
The players are connected via.
Awesome players.
All right. Let's
Oh,
anyway.
we got it. Okay.
Interesting question.
Come on, team.
I'm so impressed. Oh no. That's all right, Bison. Got it wrong, but we'll get it right next.
Wow. Foxes.
Sweet, we got
Pulling ahead.
one. Good job.
Zebras are doing really well.
Scroll on the Quizlet live screen before.
Yeah, so many.
Yeah, this is massive.
Nice job, H. Come on, Dolphins, we can do it.
Peacocks are at 6. Reindeer at 6. Oxen at 6. I think peacocks are still in the lead here.
Nice.
Ostriches, we can come back. I know we can do
this.
Nice. Good job, team.
It's okay. We got one. Come on, Dolphins, we can come back.
I think peacocks are Googling their answers.
Peacocks.
Bald eagles at 8. Oxen at 9. Bald eagles at 10. Bald eagles might have it.
It's really exposing my gaps in knowledge.
Oh, bald eagles.
Bald eagles
Woo! Congrats.
actually going through to the next round. 4 teams with me to the next round. We'll stop it. Like I said, I'll take half of the people to the next round. Teams at that point. So bald eagle, same rules as the frogs. You can keep playing this at 11, or if you want, just so you don't win. There's a couple players disconnected. I'll give you a second to join back in if you need it. And by the way, if players get disconnected during a normal game of Quizlet Live, I just say it's part of the game. It's just like throwing out those like extra little features. So if you think of like who you got a penalty, so you got disconnected. All right, I'm gonna start the game. Bald eagles and frogs, you already moved on.
Hey, ostriches, this is our time. This is our time.
Time to shine.
Never mind. I got one wrong.
Good job, Laura. Oh no. Nice job, Mark. Nice job.
Lions and pumas.
These are some tricky questions you got, Patrick.
T-Rex is at 9. Oh, giraffes at 10.
Ooh.
Ostriches at 1.
Come on, Dolphins, pull through.
Let's go, Bison.
Oh, giraffes.
So close.
Okay, we're running close here, so I'm gonna show you guys just how I would move on to the next round. The frogs, giraffes, and bald eagles. You just stay where you are and don't do anything else. Tab, and I would just split screen it so I could see both at the same time. in this case. So so then just so everybody had something to do while the playoffs were going, I would have anybody who seconds. We'll see if you guys, if you aren't Frogs, Bald Eagle, join this game, you can join this game. But you'll notice I leave the other game as is. Remixed up, and I don't want them to get remixed up in the class.
Patrick.
Yeah.
We have a question. So how do you run 2 games at once? Do they each have a different code to join? Can you just walk us through what you just did?
So what I just did is you can go to 2 separate tabs and just go to Quizlet.live and do that separately in different tabs. So all I did is you just copy and pasted the link up at the first playoffs. I just copy and pasted that into a new tab. I go to duplicate, and it will duplicate that same game in a separate tab. And then you go through and start the game just like you did before, and it will generate a different game code than what you had in the other one. So I don't know if there's actually a limit to this, but you can just keep opening new tabs and have several games going at the same time.
Yeah, smart. Good way to keep everyone engaged at the same time.
The first game, so this is the one for the actual winner. Unless it says players are disconnected, we're not going to worry about that because we're only worried about the teams that are actually in. Click start game anyway. And remember, this one that I'm viewing on the screen right now is just the Frog. The ones that are actually competing for, except for Zebras, they decided to do it anyway, apparently. That's all right. But basically the competition is just between those teams on this first one, and that's for the champion. Nice. And then this is the consolation game. So the Crocodiles already won the consolation game. And basically I just keep pressing play again on the consolation game, and just as we're doing the is actually going to win the group. Typically for playoffs, this would be several rounds. So I'd play this until I got 4 teams, and then those 2 teams, if they lost, actually 2 of those teams will go through. We can have 2 teams playing against each other, and then the one that actually wins is going to go through. So this does go fairly quick, 3 rounds to get. And it looks like Frogs might have it here. Congratulations.
Woo, good job, Frogs.
Won the Quizlet playoffs. Nice. So let me just pop through the last couple slides. Yeah.
For those of you who are on the Quizlet Frogs team, if you want to shoot an email to Laura@Quizlet.com, we'll set you up with some extra special Quizlet swag since you're the Quizlet Unconference. So my email is Laura@Quizlet.com, and we'll get some stuff sent out to you.
So is that Laura LOR or LAURA?
LAURA. And you're all teachers, so I'm trusting that there aren't going to be any fake frogs emailing.
Only real, true frogs.
Just last couple of things, and then I'll finish things up. And again, I will record this in a cleaner fashion. I got the jitters with my audio, so sorry about that. So just a couple extra things to think about. You can also add penalties when you're playing through. So sometimes I'll do this to the winning team to try and bring them back down to the same level as the rest of the room. So I could say, okay, whoever wins this game, you're going to have a penalty and you're going to get a blindfold. So I'll hand out one blindfold, and either I might pick the student that gets that blindfold, or I can still be a resource to the people in the rest of the class. So people can ask them on their team, can ask them questions, but they can also only answer audibly. They can't actually see what's going on in the room. So someone else would be in charge of actually touching their computer in that case. Sometimes I'll say you can't use a certain limb, so you can't use your right hand, you can't use your left hand, you can't use either. So they might have to use their nose to touch the screen. They might have to wear headphones so they can't hear what's going on with their group, so they can't actually be that resource. Talk, that can also be a penalty. So sometimes they assign those penalties out for different teams, and it adds another definition, variation to play. Couple tips. Usually when I'm playing regular or any one of these games, if a team wins 3 times, I shuffle the teams to mix them up as I'm going through. So that's a general rule I have in my class. Like I said before, if I want to play anonymously, I tell them to put in a 3-digit number instead of their name, so they don't actually know who is on their team in the room until they say yes, and then it's kind of a giveaway. Students can rejoin the game if they get kicked out. So some people got kicked out in that playoffs game I was doing. If you haven't seen Quizlet.live, and instead of typing in the code for the game, there actually is a little blue text below that box, and it says rejoin game. And students the game code over again. They can just click on that rejoin thing. So just be aware of that when you're walking around the room and students say they get disconnected from the game. Force communication between the students, and don't let them see each other's screens when they're playing. I never let the students see each other's screens when they're actually playing. So don't line them up right next to each other. I try to put them in a group of 4 where they're facing each other, because that's going to force students to actually look at another person's screen and try and touch their screen. You want them to actually see, so don't let them see each other's screen. And use those post-game stats after the game as well, because that's going to give you some great information for the classes, what words they conquered and which words they still are struggling on. So those are just a few tips for me. There's a couple resources on the last side along with my Twitter handle, and it was great playing with you guys today. I'll get that video taken care of.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Patrick. It was really fun getting to play Quizlet Live with everyone and play one of those tournaments. I think, do we have a couple of questions for Patrick?
Yeah, so a few of you wrote in asking about what happens when a team member gets disconnected. Patrick mentioned briefly in his slide under tips, that's if a student gets disconnected, they can refresh their page and rejoin that same game. However, I know that there are times when students may get disconnected during the middle of a live game, and in which case, again, they can still rejoin the game as long as they keep that page or tab open, and they'll have the option to continue and resume the game. However, the answers won't get distributed amongst the rest of the teammates, and we realize that is a slight limitation in how live works, but we're definitely aware of that. And it's something hopefully that we can, make better in the future. But just rest assured, as long as your students refresh their page and rejoin the game as quickly as they can, the team can get back up and running.
Awesome. Any other questions?
There's a question about on tag team. What if the quarterback points to the wrong computer? Can the person sitting look on the other computer? Patrick, can you explain that one more time?
Yeah, that's absolutely part of the game too. So if the person at the back taps the wrong computer and the person the answer, it is up to that player sitting down. Oh, I should look on my left computer because maybe the answer's over there. So in that case, there's a double check on that word for the person in the back and see, it was actually that one.
Joe, this might be a question for you.
Mhm.
How many animals are there in live? Do you know?
Oh, that's a good question. I actually don't know off the top of my head. But yeah, I know we have quite a lot. Like we have like a whole library of animals. Yeah, I would have to refer to another colleague on our team.
We can try to find out really quickly if we go through other questions.
I think that's actually all we have time for this session. Like we mentioned, we're sorry about some of those audio issues, but we will re-record this so you can make sure to see all of Patrick's amazing slides. I know he also shared out the link to where his slides are, so we can post that in the chat to let you guys know about that. And then with that, yeah, so we are going to take a quick break for a couple minutes and get ready for the next session, which is going to be all about how to share Quizlet with other teachers. So if you're feeling really inspired about some of the things you've learned today, we're going to hear from Dan Methven, who's a teacher over in the UK, who's actually shared Quizlet with tons of different teachers. And then Eric on our team is going to wrap up things by telling you a little bit about the Teacher Master Program and some of the resources we have for you guys. So thanks so much. We're going to take a really quick break and then we'll get into the next session. Thanks again, Patrick.
All right, thanks, guys.